On a Monday, what do y'all think we're going to talk about today? It's really been a heck of a weekend. We're watching history go down, and man, I got so much to say today, as you would imagine. Some of it is the actual operation itself, some of the tactical news, the legal stuff, the political fallout, the oil markets, everything that's involved, indeed, in anything that breaks during the course of the show here today. Y'all, welcome in. Happy to have y'all join us on the stream as well. I want to thank the whole crew from this weekend. We wake up to war breaking out in Iran, which was anticipated. Probably the least surprise thing that's happened in the Trump administration. This had been going on for a long time in terms of the buildup. The question was always when. You knew the Iranians were never going to give in to their nuclear ambitions. That was never going to happen. And how do we know this? Because we've had 47 years of previous administrations in both parties failing to get anywhere with these people, with this regime. It was the approach of Obama to bow down to them and hand them money and offer them foot rubs, and that failed spectacularly. That led to the atrocities on October 7th, which eventually led to the Israeli situation in Gaza. The Iranians were behind all that. And then there's all the violence in between, all the threats. Remember when we lost a drone over there and the United States just let them have the technology? The world's having to deal with them having that drone capability in Iran. When we remember when our Navy, our soldiers our Navy, I think they were Navy guys that were caught on a boat and put on their knees with their hands behind their heads with a gun pointed at them, and Obama demurred. No president has had the right approach because nothing works with these people except what just happened this weekend. And we're getting some new information in just to tell you how successful the military aspect of this has been. We've just wiped out the 11th Iranian Navy vessel that is working right now in the Gulf of Oman. One of our goals, clearly stated, is to wipe out their Navy and their whole military. Every one of their air assets, their defense systems, their offensive systems. And so we're taking those Navy boats out. Now we've knocked out their entire Oman fleet. That's important. All of those Navy maneuvers are important mainly for several reasons, but the two most obvious are their ability to forward project their power. And in two ways, we've got the Straits of Hormuz, or the Strait of Hormuz as we know it, which is a huge percentage of the world's oil supply. The Iranians easily can choke that off with their ships, or the ability to just disable ships to block that passage and make the world have pressure to end this situation. And that seems to be their approach. There's so much to talk about here. But what we've got is we've taken the Navy out. The other thing they do with their Navy in the modern age of drone technology is they launch a lot of these drones at their neighbors, at other countries, and they do it from those those drone-based ships that can extend their range even closer to the targets by being at sea when they launch them. That's over. It's the equivalent of a modern aircraft carrier in a lot of ways. We've taken two of those out. I think they only had two of those ships, but we'll find out if there's other capability. Now, this was a heavily armed, heavily capable country, and in just a matter of hours, their leadership was decimated. We've killed 47 of their top leaders, and right now, according to our government, their replacement plan has already fallen apart. We took out the A team and the B team. We took out the backups. We wiped out the bench. And so they're now trying to turn to leaders that are being drafted. You get further down the totem pole and they're being drafted into potential service. They're scared for their lives and their families. They've been given this message that the United States will extend some kind of autonomy or I guess immunity if they drop their weapons and quit putting up a fight and allow the people of that country to take their country back. And we don't know that any of that's happening yet, but they're running out of options. Now, the other optimistic sign in that whole operation that we've seen today, and I'm picking up on this from some pretty smart analysts that I've been able to read about and listen to the last 48 hours, is that they had a kill switch, dead man switch kind of operation. Should the Ayatollah be killed? This is for all their maniacal ambitions and their terrorism around the world and all the people they've killed in this regime, they're pretty smart people. They're very technically advanced folks in that government. So they had a pretty sophisticated sort of plan for succession should the Ayatollah be wiped out. And one of the best signs that that plan's not working is that these attacks are a weapon, it's sort of a warfare philosophy that's decentralized. Let me try to see if I can make common sense out of that. Normally, you'd get top-down orders. We're very centralized. We have a command structure, a president, secretary of defense, joint chiefs, and then all the way down to the theater. And that command structure works for us. If their command structure is disrupted, they had a plan to have sort of field agents have the autonomy to continue attacking people. And so it appears today that their response, that lobbing drones at buildings in the neighborhood where they live in the Middle East, and some of the attacks on Western bases and infrastructure are coming from regionalized orders, which means they don't have central leadership at all right now or a coordinated plan. And that's easily snuffed out. It takes a little longer, but it is an optimistic sign that this campaign could end sooner rather than later. How you define success would be taking away any capability for them to achieve nuclear weapons or to reconstitute a military threat to their people or the rest of the world. And that's what they are. It's what they've always been. They've been slaughtering their own citizens. They've been terrorizing that whole region. They've been terrorizing the world for 47 years. And forget that Trump just happens to be president right now. I've wanted this personally as a matter of foreign policy when I was 13 years old for the West to finally confront this rogue regime. And nothing we've tried for all this time has worked. The world is worse off for these people taking control of that country. And you don't need to listen to wild-eyed, angry, liberal white women to have a proper response to this situation. These women have lost their minds. They hate hockey teams and ballrooms right now. They hate everything. But the Iranian people themselves, I've got a series of clips we'll play for you in a second, are out celebrating. The images of them, some of this is coming from other nations where Iranian exiles are in the streets waving their flag and our flag together. I just watched a group of people waving an Israeli flag, an Iranian flag, and the United States flag doing the Trump dance to the YMCA. Women who are now free, others that are marginalized in their society, free of a dangerous, evil, oppressive regime. The United States of America has just freed 90 million people. That we freed 90 million people from absolute oppression. That's not even counting what's happening in Venezuela. That's not even counting what's about to happen in Cuba. By the way, Cuba, you're next. Count on that. These world pariahs are the world map is changing right in front of our eyes, and I don't know that a lot of folks have the depth of history to really understand that. I feel like my job is to do my best to explain it based on what I know, going back to 5 decades of watching this issue. And as we said on Saturday, and what I wanted to do from the beginning is thank my colleagues, AJ, Steve, Richard, Andrew, all of us. Val came in. She just didn't go on the air with us that day. But we were all working as soon as we could get going on Saturday morning. For a little while, at some point, it was kind of redundant. And we went on and did our weekend so we could get ready to get in here today. But our team stepped up this weekend and had a lot to offer and a lot to say. And one of the things I remember pointing out when we wrapped things up around noon on Saturday was this is much bigger picture than even the Iranian people or the state of Israel or us or our allies in the West. The whole world map is changing, and it's very much like the fall of the Berlin Wall, where a lot of the dynamics on the world stage, particularly with the Chinese and the Russians, are going to change. The calculus changes in a number of fronts outside of this Middle Eastern front. For example, China was buying 90% of Iran's oil. Now, hear what I said. They don't get 90% of their oil from Iran, but they were buying 90% of Iran's oil, which was doing what? It was funding their terror regime. It was bypassing international sanctions, and they were getting it on the cheap. When you're trying to sell stuff to the black market, you can't charge market rates. And so in some ways that was disruptive to the world oil consumption model. Try to follow me here. I'll get into oil politics now for a second, I guess. So by cutting off China, and then Venezuela was also sending black market oil to China. They had a buyer that was thirsty for it, that needed it, and didn't give a damn what the West thought about the sanctions. So that was the move where we stopped the ghost oil tankers and we took out Maduro and we took that away from the Chinese. Now we take this away from the Chinese. And every minute they get weaker economically or their ability to fund their own energy sources, that changes the dynamic of a potential war between China and Taiwan. This has moving parts all over the planet. All of it's interconnected. For the Russians, their drone program they're using against the Ukrainians right now, while we still try to negotiate with them, the drone program is the most effective thing that the Russians are doing, and they're getting all their drones from Iran. Iran had become prolific and very smart at developing. After again, they stole our technology during the Obama administration and just stole it. We just let them have it. We let a drone. We were the only people in the world that had these things. We let a drone crash. They reverse engineered the technology and caught up with us. It's just called a technology transfer, and it was done out of the weakness of that administration, and it empowered these people. And so it changes the dynamic even of Putin's advantage. Also, Putin has a huge energy advantage, and as the United States continues to free up energy all over the world, we get stronger and Putin gets weaker. His oil's not worth as much when it's free flowing from other free countries that aren't embargoed and can produce for the world. Eventually, that's going to drop our fuel prices. Now, some people are speculating about where does oil and gas go as it relates to this effort. Well, common sense would dictate that the price of gas is going to go up during the uncertain time. The fascinating thing to me is oil only went up to about $77 a barrel today, a very modest increase, only of about 6%. Now, the markets are still trading. We've still got 45 minutes, and any given headline could change that. But that's because this administration had the foresight to pre-negotiate with some oil producers in the region that knew this attack was coming, and they've agreed to put out an additional 260 million barrels a day into the market to offset disruptions, which would mean not just the Iranian oil, but also the transportation of oil. If we can keep the transportation lanes open, then oil continues to flow and there won't be a shock to the delivery system. And that means our prices at the pump won't spike. Right now, if you calculated it and tried to extrapolate with today's spot price going up, gas stations tend to buy. They're selling you gas at a price so they can pay for their next truckload. So they look at the spot price down the road, and that's what we're paying now in advance in some ways. That's an oversimplification, but that's kind of how it works. So it looks to me like if you extrapolate the percentage, we could see gas go up about 20 cents a gallon in the next few days. But that's not an oil shock. That's not a depletion. There are no shortages. It's still flowing. Oil and gas is there. It's been coming down. But that's also a temporary situation. Once the hostilities subside and we get into the rest of the year, there's a demand curve that peaks toward summer in terms of use. We're on a completely different footing on that issue. Rather than living in a country that had its own oil resources under attack, particularly the Biden administration when they had that sock puppet in there and the really globalist people that wanted to weaken our country started attacking our infrastructure and making it hard to produce our own resources. Under that model, that's what shot the price up in the beginning. You got a different consumer-based production side model where we get more oil in the end after these efforts. There will be a cost. We've lost at least, I think it's 4 service members now. We don't know the complete details of those circumstances. There will be others. There will be casualties on the ground. There will be incidents like what we saw in Austin, Texas, where that immigrant that came here and got himself naturalized into our country from Senegal decided to take it upon himself to go jihad. And that's much more, it appears right now on the surface of it, sort of a lone wolf attack. Even though in Austin, Texas, they're pretending they don't know if it's connected to the headlines. Dude was wearing a Property of Allah shirt and an Iranian flag T-shirt under that. He was making his statement. It was clearly an act of terror. But here's the good news in that. Sadly, people died. Young people died. but that was not a terror cell. That was not the thing we really fear, that they had smuggled terror cells into the country and they would go operational the minute something like this happened. They had orders to do that. I'm not saying that isn't happening, and we've all got to watch for that. Our FBI has their counterterrorism units on red alert all over the country. Those kind of follow on attacks could happen. And if they do, it won't be a random dumbass with an AR shooting up a bunch of drunk kids in a unprotected space where they're vulnerable. It won't be that kind of stupidity. It'll be much more significant, and you can bet the death toll will be significant if they have sleeper cells running around, and we don't know that yet. So these times are uncertain, and we've got to hope that the tensions settle down more quickly. Now, the Iranians are known to be full of bluster, and everything they blustered prior to now has turned out to be just that. Their incapability compared to us has been stunning. The speed with which the United States military was able to carry out what they've done so far has put us way ahead of schedule. We understand that the Pentagon, in their tabletop exercises, had about a 4-week timeline just to take out the leadership to create the vacuum for potential regime change. Well, we did that in a matter of hours. So we're now 4 weeks ahead of schedule. That doesn't mean we're only going to do 4 weeks and we're going to leave. That's stupid. It also means it does not mean we're going to occupy this country and try to do nation building like the Bush team did. That's also foolish. You can't possibly think you understand this president and think we're going to go there to make Iran a 51st state. We just created the opportunity for 90 million people to live in freedom. And while some high-minded thinkers here in the United States that consider themselves conservative, and maybe are, philosophically opposed to the stuff that happened under Bush, so am I, by the way. I'm completely understanding of that philosophy, but it's just that. It's a philosophy. That's the Tucker Carlson wing of the party. We're not in philosophical times. We're in real, practical, immediate times. And the world has just been freed of a great terror threat. And I find this moment that we're living in extremely optimistic. I'm not walking out in fear going, oh my gosh, we're at war, and we hand wring. We are freeing the planet. We're redrawing the map. And there's so much possibility here for not only the people of that country to live like they lived before, for the region to completely come forward with peace deals and prosperity. You had to get this chess piece off the table if that was ever going to happen. And now some of their other neighbors who've also been attacked. And by the way, I got this question today. Why would Iran attack its neighbors and draw the Europeans into it? Why would they do that? Why would they drag the French and get the British? They weren't going to let us use their airspace, and now suddenly they want to play ball. They're doing it because their idea is that if they cause damage to some of these wimpy countries, that they'll in turn freak out and start putting pressure on the West to end the situation. This is exactly what happened in Gaza. As the atrocities mounted, the Western world turned on the Israelis, and by extension, I suppose, the United States, and kept demanding a call for a ceasefire and to end it. The Israelis stuck to their guns, and they ended it the proper way by winning the situation. They didn't just quit. They won it. They completed it. They're safer for it. And likewise, the United States will complete this mission and will be safer for it. We're not on anybody's timeline. And the West, foolishly now, it seems the Europeans right now have not wimped out, and they're wanting to join us. They're acquiescing a little bit. So are Iran's neighbors. Years of them messing with their own neighbors and attacking their own neighbors. These are things we don't follow in Western media, have now built up a lot of resentment. And so you've got a sequence of countries fighting alongside the Israelis, Arab countries, Muslim countries, to help go ahead and depose this regime. Indeed, it's a multinational effort now, and that's a good thing. All right, man, I got so much to say, and I know y'all got calls, y'all got stuff to say. Let's do a radio show. We'll come back and get that started in earnest right after this. Stay tuned. All right, it's 227 Leland Live Talk 995 Monster Liner. Good to hear from them again. They took a little break till we could get to springtime. Makes sense because these are the kind of projects you want to do outside. They've got a product that can help you. Whoa, I got fuzzy, AJ. What just happened? I was looking at my camera. Everything got weird. Let me put it on autofocus and see if we can figure that out. Yeah, Monster Liner, what an incredible product that can help you do your projects, whatever your projects may be. Sometimes you just got to get it done, and that is a paint project, particularly an outdoor type project. And that's this thing was made for do-it-yourselfers from a professional paint company. This is Magnet Paints. They normally make, I'll tell you their backstory, they make industrial paint for industry. And a lot of people manufacture things, trailers, boat trailers, utility trailers, other things made out of metal, and they need a good, durable paint in their custom trade colors in as part of their manufacturing process. Somewhere along the way, Eric and those guys said, why don't we make a paint that the regular folks can use and do their projects too? So they came up with Monster Liner. Here's the key. I think it's the textured finish, which is a really popular look nowadays, especially when you do it flat. That hides imperfections. And they designed it so you can roll it on. When I first went to visit with them, I thought, man, people are going to have to buy sprayers and learn how to do that. It takes finesse. Man, anybody can use a roller. So you can take this paint and take that, whatever that rusty thing is that you need painting, that's probably not valuable enough for you to go spend thousands to have it professionally painted. Even a vehicle, even an off-road vehicle or any kind of hoopty you got with some rust on it, you can paint that stuff with Monster Liner. Look, they're in Coleman County. I love that this is an Alabama business, and they'll get you the whole kit, everything you need to do this project. Monster Liner, MONSTALINER, monsterliner.com. AJ, I'm going to work on this fuzzy camera. Oh, it's back. Look at that. How you doing today, by the way? Monsterliner.com. Y'all go see him.
Too blessed to be depressed.
That's what I thought you would say. Back in a minute. All right, y'all, Leland Live, talking 995 as we getting a little taste of spring. I'm starting to see green shoots out there. The weather's been nice. I think we're going to get kicked in the teeth in mid-March one more time. But we're getting there, and Distinctive Pools is ready to come start digging and get your pool project done for you. You'll be ready by summer for sure. It takes a minute to get the right plan, but this is what they're so good at, is designing something that you will love to have on your home, to look beautiful, for all your guests and your kids and your grandkids and your neighbors and your buddies, whoever you want to entertain at your pool. Because they're also a hardscape company, that means they can build all these features in addition to just the pool, which is the hole in the ground with the water in it. But they put a lot of beautiful other features out there, outdoor fireplaces and outdoor sort of living spaces, kitchens, all of the stuff that people are doing now. Some people are scaling down the size of the pool instead of putting an Olympic swimming pool in your yard. You just do just enough to have a pool, and then do the other stuff. It all ties in beautifully to your home. If you do it right, it adds value. If you don't do it right, it looks cheap. Don't do cheap. Just don't do a pool if you're going to do something that's not right. Distinctive Pools will make it right. All you got to do is go to their website, look at the examples of everything that they've built, some of the things they've built, some of the befores and afters, and they'll show you more. They'll send you more options, and invite those guys to come over. And Gary Levesque may come himself or send one of his crew over and start drawing out a design and laying it out. It's a really, really beautiful thing, and a perfect time to get a year to get that done. This is my pool company. Whenever I get ready, this is exactly who's going to do one for me. It's distinctivepools.com, distinctivepools.com. All right, so much to say about the Iranian situation. I do think we have AJ, do we still have Daniel on the phone? I don't want to put the callers off too long because I know y'all have plenty to say today about it. Daniel, we'll go ahead and get this call in and then we'll keep moving. Daniel, what's up, buddy?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing well.
Listen, it's not it's off topic a little bit, but whatever happened to the Keystone pipeline? Is that a dead issue now, or?
No, they're reinvigorated it with the Trump administration. Part of it is still dealing with some states through which it has to pass. The construction was halted on it. I don't know where we are on construction of it, but some of those pathways were cleared very, very early. I think on the first day of the Trump administration. It seems like I remember an executive order on it. I don't know the status as of today, but it's a project that's got the green light again.
Okay. Is that bringing oil from Alaska or from Canada, and where is it going to take it to?
It's really coming from Alberta. And well, I pulled it up to see if anything had changed. The big deal right now is with Canada. It's some of it is still on hold because of the Canadians. And I think at one point it seems like Michigan or North Dakota was causing trouble in getting the construction restarted. But it was designed to get the oil out of Alberta and out of that part of Canada through the United States, tie into the other pipelines, and get it to the refineries, particularly on the Gulf Coast and around Baton Rouge. And that was its whole existence. And that was a good deal between us and Canada. But you see how the Canadians are nowadays.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate it, bud.
All right, man. Yeah, and some of that was the politics of this whole idea behind climate change. Have y'all noticed that the left has almost dropped that? It just disappeared. They were about it like a religious cult. Now, I'm not saying some of them still aren't silly enough to believe that was actual science or that there were some real solutions to their perceived problem there, but they've dropped it. You know what I think it is? It's data. It's AI centers. It's not just Trump's president now, and they can't do much about it. But even globally, these initiatives are falling apart. Some of it's the truth of the failure of the tech that they tried to present. Some of the regulations that drove up cost in the blue states, their energy costs are going through the roof. So there's a political angle there, a self-preservation angle. Anyway, that's a side note. I don't want to go too far down that road because we still got to talk about a lot of this Iranian stuff. Let me play you some sound. This is amazing, and I must have 100 different clips of this going on all over our country and all over the Middle East. These people are getting out in the streets. I think this was on this side of the pond. Iranians, Israelis, and Americans, largely some of which were of Iranian descent too, waving flags of all three countries and doing the YMCA. They're out there dancing to the YMCA You can kind of hear it in the background. There must be 300 people out here in the streets. And here's the fun part. They're doing the Trump version of the YMCA. Not the one we all learned at the back in the 70s where you spell out the letters, with your arms. But they're doing the little fist thing side to side like he's skiing or whatever Trump does. And I've got so many of these clips. I mean, I got a whole sequence of them. Here's another one. This was from, they lined up outside the U.S. Embassy in Canada. This is just some sound from that one today. This was today as well. These are Iranian exiles and others that in Canada, outside a consulate, playing the same song. I don't know where all these damn Iranian flags came from all of a sudden. I see Israeli flags, I see Canadian flags, I see American flags. Man, that's gonna really bug some people, especially the people that hate our hockey team too. Whoa, oh, talk about the politics of Canada. Oh gosh, and so it just keeps going. And then there was a more simple statement. You're hearing these statements all over the internet. Some of them in broken English, but they're thanking the United States for giving them a shot at freedom. And if you understand these people and as a culture, as a 1,000-year-old civilization, some estimate about 3 up to 4,000 years old, if you trace the Persian Empire back far enough, they know what they're about. They know what their culture is, what their heritage, their families, their music. These are not things the Iranian regime was able to replace in 1979. They just became brutal oppressors and moved in with their very strict theology and have just brutalized and killed their own citizens. Forget what they've done with Israel and us and the terror operations they ran in Iraq and Afghanistan, the exportations of all kinds of evil in the world. It's their own people that are the most thrilled about this. Here's another woman who just had a simple thank you to say to the United States.
The message for every single American who voted for President Trump.
Oh, I got
From
two
the
things
bottom of
going,
my
AJ.
heart,
Here we go.
thank you. God bless President Trump. God bless the U.S. military. And God bless America. We can't wait until Iran is free and we can welcome you back to our country with open arms and be the allies that we used to be before the Islamic regime took over our country in 1979. That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much, and God bless America.
She's holding up a little tiny American flag that was recorded, apparently, according to the internet, in Tehran, and they made sure they got that word out to the rest of the United States. Now, let's talk about them and their people. We can get into the American political back and forth, which is true about everything nowadays. For example, Rubio just got on an elevator. He's going to brief what's called the Gang of Eight. These are the Senate and House leaders from each chamber to update them on what we're calling, what the operational name is, Epic Fury. Now, I got to be real with y'all. AJ, that sounds to me like a 90s video game. That does not sound. It's so. What? How did they come up with that? Epic Fury. Like, come on, man! Like
it does sound like a bad
that.
80s movie.
I mean, the last time it was Midnight Hammer, I was like, okay,
yeah.
I was picturing MC Hammer, and now it's Epic Fury,
starring Louis Gossett Jr.
Yes. You don't understand what I'm trying to do. I love Louis Gossett Jr. and Iron Eagle.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what's some other like 80s, popular 80s guys, from from that time, because it sounds like one of those 80 movies. Yeah.
It's like
it looks like Rubio's talking right now.
That'd be Epic Fury 9. Okay, yeah, let's listen to Rubio. I think he's done with the Gang of Eight. Let's see what he's got to say. He's so impressive nowadays.
Do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, the within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act. Going back to the purpose of this is to destroy that missile capability. Why does Iran want that ballistic missile capability? What they are trying to do and have been trying to do for a very long time is build a conventional weapons capability as a shield where they can hide behind. Meaning, there would come a point where they have so many conventional missiles, so many drones, and it can inflict so much damage that no one can do anything about their nuclear program. That is what they were trying to do, is put themselves in a place of immunity where the damage they could inflict on the region would be so high that no one can do anything about their nuclear program or their nuclear ambitions. They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have. They've been doing this for a very long time, and by the way, they've been doing it under sanction. You see the attacks they're conducting right now? They're attacking airports, they're attacking hotels, they're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly, they're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military, and that's a weakened Iran. That's an Iran despite years of sanction. Imagine a year from now, or a year and a half from now, the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us. It's an unacceptable risk, especially in the hands of a regime that's run by radical clerics. The Ayatollah was a radical cleric. That entire regime is led by radical clerics who don't make geopolitical decisions. They make decisions on the basis of theology, their view of theology, which is an apocalyptic one. That has to be taken very seriously as well. So that was the purpose for what this operation is all about. That's what it's focused on. As the president said earlier today, it is on or ahead of schedule. I will defer to the Department of War to discuss the progress being made at a tactical level, but it was the right decision and an important decision for the safety and security of the world.
Okay, this is in a very echoey sort of hallway in a stairwell, so the audio is a little difficult as the media chirps. Let's see if he answers questions.
No.
Did you tell lawmakers that there was an imminent
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
The U.S. was forced to strike because of an impending Israeli action?
No, first of all, two things I would say. Number one is, no matter what, ultimately this operation needed to happen. That's the question of why now. But this operation needed to happen because Iran in about a year or a year and a half would cross the line of immunity, meaning they would have so many short-range missiles, so many drones, that no one could do anything about it because they could hold the whole world hostage. Look at the damage they're doing now. And this is a weakened Iran. Imagine a year from now. So that had to happen. Obviously, we were aware of Israeli intentions and understood what that would mean for us, and we had to be prepared to act as a result of it. But this had to happen no matter what.
Mr. Secretary, President Trump said overnight that his top choices to now run with Iran were killed in strikes. Does the United States have a firm plan for how they intend to handle this power vacuum in Iran to ensure that an Iron hardliner does not take power?
So two things can be true. Number one is our mission and our focus is the destruction of their ballistic missile capabilities and their ability to manufacture them, as well as the threat posed by their Navy to global shipping. That's the objective. That said, we would not mind, we would not be heartbroken, and we hope that the Iranian people can overthrow this government and establish a new future for that country. We would love for that to be possible. But the objective of this mission is the destruction of their ballistic missile capabilities and of their naval capabilities.
So are you saying, based on that, are you saying that there is no responsibility, no plan for the U.S. to at least play a role in whatever government comes next?
We might. We'll see how circumstances play out. But I'm telling you what the objectives of this operation are. The objectives of this operation are to destroy their ballistic missile capability and make sure they can't rebuild it, and make sure that they can't hide behind that to have a nuclear program. That's the objective of the mission. That said, abundantly clear, we would love for there to be an Iran that's not governed by radical Shia clerics. As I've said myself repeatedly for years, the leadership of that country does not reflect the people of Iran, and I think that's been pretty apparent in the protests that you've seen. If there's something we can do to help them down the road, we'd obviously be open to it, but that's not the objective. The objective of this mission is the destruction of their ballistic missile capability.
Has not gone well for the United States.
What now?
Regime change has not gone well for the United States for many, many decades. How do you assure the American public that things will not get worse for the next regime that comes in there and replaces the
Well, we would love to see this regime be replaced. And ultimately, as the president has said, he calls... No, but let me finish my answer. As the president said, he would love for the people of Iran to use this as an opportunity to rise up and remove these leaders. They've been wanting to remove them from a long time. We've seen successive waves of protests, and we've seen them slaughter people, okay? But the objective of this mission is to make sure they don't have these weapons that can threaten us and our allies in the region. That's why we're doing what we're doing now. And while we would love to see a new regime, the bottom line is no matter who governs that country a year from now, they're not going to have these ballistic missiles and they're not going to have these drones to threaten us. That's the objective of this mission, is to deny them the ability to use ballistic missiles to threaten their neighbors, to threaten our bases, to threaten our presence in the region, and ultimately as a shield behind which they can do whatever they want with their nuclear weapons ambition. We were not going to let them hide behind that, and that's why this was such a critical mission to undertake now while they were at their weakest point, and not a year from now where they could inflict even more damage and perhaps already be behind that point of immunity. Right here behind, go ahead, you and then you. Yes.
Your critics in Congress have said that they should have a role, they should be able to weigh in here, and there are going to be war powers resolutions votes in Congress later this week. Why not notify Congress ahead of this, and does Congress...
Well, we did. We notified Congress. I mean, we notified the Gang of Eight. We notified congressional leadership. There's no law that requires us to do that. The law says we have to notify them 48 hours after beginning hostilities. We've done that. I think the notification went today. But we did notify members of Congress in advance. But we can't notify 535 members of Congress.
Vote to authorize the war.
Well, the Congress can vote on whatever they want. There's no law that requires us to do that. And I want to say something because I see people on TV. Look, that's fine. If they want to take a war powers vote, they can do that. They've done that. They've done that a bunch of times. But there's no, people keep saying that there's no law that requires the president to have done anything with regards to this. To begin with, no presidential administration has ever accepted the War Powers Act as constitutional. Not Republican presidents, not Democratic presidents. That said, we have followed the notification at 48 hours. We're here today. I've done more Gang of Eight briefings than I got in the 4 years that Biden was president and I was a member of the Gang of Eight. All of that said, we've complied with the law 100%. And we're going to continue to comply with it. We've done the notification, and we officially to Congress, but we did notify members of Congress. We just can't notify 535 people. That's not possible, but we did the Gang of Eight twice. I briefed them last week, and then I called them the night before the operation.
Can you tell us what you know, Mr. Secretary, of the administration knows about the strike on a building in southern Iran that the Iranians are saying was a school, reports of large civilians, including children killed?
Yeah, I've seen those reports. I would refer you, not because I'm not trying to answer your question, but I don't want to get it wrong. The Department of War would be investigating that if that was our strike, and I would refer your question to them, and I'll make sure they're aware that you have that question. But we'd like to know.
An American missile.
Well, clearly, the United States would not deliberately target a school. Our objectives are missiles, both the ability to manufacture them and the ability to launch them, and the one-way attract drones. That would be our focus, and that's what we would be focused on. We would have no interest and, frankly, no incentive to target civilian infrastructure. The Iranians are, on the other hand, targeting civilian infrastructure. You guys have seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. They're hitting hotels. They're hitting embassies. They're hitting airports. They're hitting oil infrastructure.
Children killed.
Well, it'd be very tragic, but I can't speak to the details behind it because I just don't have it. It would be a tragic outcome if it's happened. I don't have the details as to what led to it, but what is clear that the United States would not deliberately target a school. They are, on the other hand, deliberately targeting civilians, as you've seen, because you know why? They are a terroristic regime. They sponsor terrorism and they participate in terrorism.
Rubio, what's your message to Americans who are concerned about rising energy prices given the spiking of oil prices today?
Yes, and we knew that going in would be a factor, and so we have a program in place that will begin to be implemented by Secretary Wright, Secretary Bessent. We talked about it last night, again, about this program. We talked this morning, and starting tomorrow, you will see us rolling out those phases to try to mitigate against that. Obviously, markets are going to be reacting to news about what's happening. And again, a reminder, think about it, okay? This terroristic regime, led by radical clerics, has the ability, potentially, to shut off 20% of global energy. That's the kind of leverage they have because of their Navy. We're going to destroy their Navy. But there is a plan in place. We anticipated this could be an issue, and Secretary Wright and Bessent will begin to roll out those steps starting tomorrow to mitigate against the impact that could have.
Do you anticipate putting boots on the ground, and how long do you anticipate the conflict to last?
Well, we don't. Let me say two things about it. Number one, the president always has the options to undertake whatever operations he decides to do as the commander-in-chief. That said, we believe the objective that we have set for this mission, which is the destruction of their ballistic missile capabilities, both launch capability and manufacturing, can be achieved without ground forces. Right now, we're not postured for ground forces, but obviously the president has those options. He's never going to rule out anything. But right now, our focus is on the destruction of their ballistic missile launchers, their ballistic missile stockpiles, and their ballistic missile manufacturing capability, as well as their one-way attract drones and their Navy, because of the threat it poses to global shipping.
How long do you expect that?
I can only do one more. Right there in the middle. Yes, sir.
Is there a diplomatic exchange going on right now between the U.S. and Iran? Any exchanges whatsoever outside?
No, not at this time. I mean, look, we always have people that reach out from inside of governments. You don't know if they're authorized to reach out or not. They're suffering a tremendous amount of damage. Honestly, again, I'm not going to give away the details of our tactical efforts, but the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now. Someone was screaming, how long will it take? I don't know how long it'll take. We have objectives. We will do this as long as it takes to achieve those objectives, and we will achieve those objectives. The world will be a safer place when we're done with this operation. All right? Thank you, guys.
There, again, continues to impress in his ability to field questions and have a deep understanding of the areas with which he's assigned. I'm telling you, every time I watch him of late, that he's the guy at this moment, as I stand here right now, I'd prefer him for president in 2028, even over J.D. Vance. I just think there's a lot going on there with Rubio that he is seasoned and matured into. I hope he doesn't disappoint me in the next, I guess 24 months or so, but he is adept, and he seems to really believe what he's saying. And that is, this is a just cause. Nothing's flawless, but it's going off swimmingly for the United States government. And as for the question that he got from the sort of weaselly reporter that asked about, how can you assure that we're going to not going to have something worse that takes over in Iran? Well, nobody can assure that. And Rubio wasn't even there to do that. He repeated, I counted at least 6 times, that the operational objective was to take out their military infrastructure and their ability to threaten their neighbors in the world with nuclear weapons. And we're going about that task. The Israelis have gone about the task of taking the regime out, the personnel shots, so that yes, there's a vacuum there, but the Iranian people, this escapes everyone who's analyzing it, have been in the streets fighting for their freedom for weeks now. It's not the only time they've ever done this. They've been slaughtered, and they kept it up. They are dying in the streets to take that government back over. These are people that want a democratic style government, and they've been marching for it, being killed over it. And those are the people that will likely control the narrative if that opportunity is given them. And the world knows that. Their exiles all over the world will flock right back to that country and try to establish something that's civil. And I think the world understands that. There's always the fear of a power vacuum. But as far as being worse, the guy predicating his question is, could they get something worse? What's worse than the Ayatollahs and what they've done to this world? There's not a worse country in the world in terms of virulence and violence and everything else that they've introduced into planet Earth for the last 47 years. Man, there was a lot there just in Rubio's statement. We've heard from Trump today. We've heard from Hegseth. We've heard from Dan Kane, the Joint Chiefs Chairman. And I don't know what else we'll get before this afternoon. Obviously, headlines from the battlefield, that'll be coming in as we go through the next 3 hours. We invite you to hang out and join us and call in if you want. 545-9950. Plenty to talk about today. Leland Live, Talk 99.5.